Well, only 1 week back out on the road and my CJ-7's already back in the shop. Right now I'm finishing up an axle seal job that I thought would not take very long. Not the case. Besides gear oil leaking everywhere from the seal, when I pulled out the axle shaft, the bearing was destroyed, completely blown apart, pieces everywhere. So much like the Suburban, we're doing seals and bearings. But besides this can of worms, there's been a growing fix list ever since the CJ pulled out of the shop. We're gonna take care of that today. Let's check it out. First thing on this AMC 20 rear axle is we're pressing in the inner oil seal. Now on the oil seal, one side has a spring kind of hiding under the lip. You want to make sure that goes towards the oil, and then we're just hammering this in until it stops. Next, we need to hammer in our bearing spacer ring, and you can see it has this ledge on it. That ledge we want facing towards the outside, right like that. Now we can throw the bearing in, but we're just doing this to check a clearance. Now you want to make sure this line on the bearing is facing out. We're going to slide the bearing in. We actually want the bearing sticking out a little bit, protruding past the tube, and the spec on that is anywhere between 20 thousandths and 80 thousandths. We'll check the low end of that right now with the 20 thousandths feeler gauge, and we're just going to use this here as a straight edge, and we're going to slip this behind there. So we're at least at 20. So we want to make sure we're not over 80. So I'm going to stack a few of these together. So 79. Again, straight edge, and that won't go behind it. So it's we're in spec somewhere between 20 and 80 thousandths, which is perfect. Now that bearing we were just test fitting needs to get pressed onto the axle shaft here. This AMC 20 was actually converted to a one-piece axle shaft by my dad. That's not how they're set up from factory. They're two-piece. You got to pre-assemble everything and then press the bearing on because it kind of holds everything together. And the first thing that's going on is this seal guard, and then we have the outer oil seal, and you can see that spring in there again, which faces the oil, so that needs to point up. And I'm gonna put a little bit of motor oil on here, just kind of lube this seal up. Slide that down. Next, probably the most annoying part of the whole thing is the backing plate for the drum brakes, which means I had to disassemble all the drum brakes, pull out the wheel cylinder, which also means I need to put all that back and then bleed the brakes just to service the bearings, which is kind of annoying, but that's the way it goes. So we'll send that down, facing downwards, right like that. After the backing plate goes the bearing, and then this is where that ring needs to face the roadside. We'll slide that down. And then finally, we have our press ring. So, need to invert and then get it going in the press here. So if you look real close like here, you can see that edge or that line in the middle. That's where it kind of tapers up to the axle, and that's where that bearing is going to stop. So we still got a ways to go. I think we're there. Now with everything slammed together here, we're going to give it a little test fit. That seems right about right. Pull all this back out real quick. On this surface right here, I'm just gonna do some ultra black. And shoot, I probably should have done between this seal and the backing plate. I don't think that's gonna happen. Back in we go for good this time. Man, that would be nice peace of mind to get some RTV on there. Get a little bit going. That ought to maybe work. These one-piece axle shafts have a hole cut in them to access the bolts. And we'll go in a cross pattern. There's not really a torque spec with these because of the bearing that we're pressing up against. Now I'll come through and just see how everything feels by hand. Just making sure everything is pretty snug. Well, now that we got the axle shafts in there, threw the drum brakes together real quick. Takes a little bit of time, but ain't too bad. And then I readjusted the park brake cable while I was in here. So now the drums fit on here real good. And now I'm gonna do a solo brake bleed. That's all hooked up. Master cylinder's topped off, so we're just gonna pump it up. That drank it down pretty quick. Drink, oop, too much. All right, that got solid real quick. Loctite, wheel spacer. 100 foot-pounds. Sweet turbines. Coming down. Now the last part of this job is topping it off with gear oil. I want to show this part because I made an interesting discovery when I cracked open. So I end up actually pulling the diff cover off, which you wouldn't normally need to do for that axle job. But after I removed the axle shaft, I peered down the tube and I seen a big old chunk of metal sitting in there. Definitely wasn't a bearing. So I cracked it open to see what was inside, and I discovered this guy. It's called a thrust block. It rides on the pin that holds the spider gears together, and half of it was in this axle tube, and then the other half was still riding on the pin with the passenger side axle shaft kind of holding it in place. So come to find out, when you do a one-piece axle conversion, you're supposed to remove this, or this might happen, I guess. That's why we had the diff cover apart. But more interesting than that, I was taking a look after close examination. We actually have a factory limited slip in this AMC 20 track lock, and at first glance I thought it was open rear because you see the 4 spider gears there, but if you look past the spider gears you can see some clutch packs there indicating it's a limited slip. So first I'm going to add some limited slip additive, which I don't think has ever been done before in this Jeep. That's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I'm going to top it off with some 80 weight 90 gear oil. I'm going to go on a little test drive real quick, make sure everything feels good and brakes are working and such. We gotta fix that. Have a look. It's pretty dry. No leaks detected. So we're good. So now that that's done, the Jeep really is mechanically sound now. Now we just got a bunch of little issues. One of which that I found is lights that die while I'm driving. I hit a bump or something, they just flick on and off, and I suspect it's the headlight switch. And if I wiggle this around enough, it's kind of sporadic. I can't really nail it down why it does it, but I figured out if I wiggle these wires, I can sometimes make the headlights flash. And it only seems like it happens when it warms up, because right now I'm moving the wires a ton and nothing's happening. Get this out of here. I don't know if you can see that, but there is like a warming glow in there. And I'm not sure that that's supposed to get like red hot like that. But I still can't get the dang lights to flicker like I was talking about. You'll just have to take my word for it. That's a fire hazard. Here's our new unit. And we'll just swap these wires over one at a time so we don't lose the spot. Decorative ring and the nut. This is my favorite part of the whole install. I got a new knob. This is how it's been as long as I can remember this Jeep. I guess we won't know about the whole light flickering thing until we need them most. But well, while we're on the subject of lights, it's broke and doesn't hold a bulb anymore. You can see the new one has a spot for the bulb, so that's cool. Yay. More wiring issues. This one hopefully won't be too bad. I got the 4-ways on right now. You can see how screwed up it is, but I don't think we're in too bad a shape because we know we're getting the blinky signal to the front driver's side. So I think something just in the wiring is messed up. And then it's the exact opposite on the passenger side. The front marker is blinking, but not the side marker. So I feel like it's the same issue, just a little different. I'm just gonna unplug this because we know the headlight's working. Things escalated, but I'm getting closer. I don't know where the heck these things ground at, but the green wire is the flashy wire and the white wire is like the solid light. And you can see that here with the test light, the green's blinking. Interesting thing is, for this lower marker light, when I put it on the green wire, it does indeed blink. So, oh. Hot! Jeez. Turns out it's a grounding issue, like it always is, 11 times out of 10. If you'll see here, if I ground out this housing, just right there, and then here's that side marker. But if I move this around enough and get a good ground, that side marker lights up, as it should, nice and bright. Our issue is the grounding screws that are holding everything together. They are actually really loose. See if that was it. Sure enough. Here's what I come up with. To solve our grounding issues and these holes being wallered out, I ran its own ground cable and I self-tapped it into the housing here and then ran that ground up to where the headlight grounds, because we knew that is a good ground. It's not just grounding on the mounting bolts, it has its own dedicated setup, and then that screw, once the cover's on, you'll never even know. And as you can see, side marker nice and bright. Go ahead and check the 4-ways quick. So I'm gonna do the same setup over here, although I don't know what's grounding it right now. Wait a minute, they're supposed to alternate like that, but these are blinking at the same time. Well, I never. I think this here just needs flipped around. That took a little while, but it's all back together. Headlights, turn signal, side markers flashing. Finally, all lights work. And we are now under the Jeep for one last electrical gremlin. Wire right here is the ground for the send unit for the fuel tank. And very common CJ issue, our fuel gauge does not work. I am hoping it's not the brand new sending unit I just put in. Cleaning. New screw. And I got a pretty decent view of the side of the tank here. There's that ground just to make sure everything's hooked up top side. All right, let's watch this not work. Nothing. Let's jiggle around back here. Oh, I got it. This plug was highly corroded, so I just unplugged it and plugged it back in a few times. Looky here. Fuel gauge. From what I read online and everything, that was the one thing I was actually worried that was not going to get fixed, because apparently that's a big issue. We're good. That's pretty much all of our electrical gremlins. So I've been waiting this whole time just to do this one little piece. It's just the cherry on top. I got a little Jeep cap on there. I love it. We got ourselves a new day and we're out on a little test drive. So, fuel gauge working, which is cool. Now, a couple things I did off camera. I adjusted the clutch and I adjusted the throttle pedal, and it turns out ever since the Jeep's been back on the road, I have not been able to go full throttle apparently. It's much different. I don't know how I didn't notice that, but man, it sounds way better. The clutch adjustment just needed a little bit. It was kind of, I pretty much had to push the pedal all the way to the floor to get max engagement, so just put a little bit of preload on it. Ready? Yeah, much better. Now, a couple things you might have noticed throughout the video, like the doors and the top being on. That's a top that I recently acquired from a YJ, like that, and it came with doors over here, doors plus the top, which is in good shape for 400 bucks. I did get it to fit. I was looking pretty hard for a CJ hardtop, but no luck. So this is what I went with. It was getting cold, and I had to adjust the doors a little bit to get them to fit. Now, the reason I didn't use the YJ doors is because earlier CJs like this here, 77, use a different striker setup. The YJs have a pin like that, which could be done. I am very fond of these doors. They've been around as long as the CJ has, and I like the old style handles better. I like the pinstriping. I like the patina. They're just blue on a brown Jeep. So the cool thing though, I was still able to salvage those YJ doors for some parts. I stole this grab handle and the window regulator, so now this window works. I swapped out the wing window as well, but I'm now realizing why they didn't put wing windows on CJs from the factory. It's because you can't open them, because the dash is in the way. Fear not, you just got to open it first, and then your window can be winged. Anyway, huge progress getting rid of some of those electrical gremlins on the CJ here. That's not quite the whole list though. Other things we need to do include a heater core and a blower motor. That'll be its own video though. You pretty much got to gut the whole dash, and it's not quite cold enough to need heat yet, so we can push that off. This one's exciting. This is a twin stick conversion kit for the Dana 20 transfer case. When we went up to the mountains, I was having a hard time getting it in 4 low, and on my extra transmission, you can see here on the 4-wheel drive lever just how much slop there can be in the linkage. The twin stick, what that does, each of these pistons get their own stick and keeps the linkage nice and tight. Say you wanted regular 4 low, you put the left stick forward to put the rear in low, and the right stick forward to put the front in low. That's exciting. Other than CJ stuff, the C10 is getting a gear swap and posi. The axle's out already. We're in the process of that video. Another project we got going on is the YJ that's sitting outside there. That's the one that we found a hole in the piston. We were able to find a motor on Marketplace, so we're gonna refresh this, put some gaskets in it, drop it back in that Jeep, get it running again. Plenty to stay busy around here, keep you entertained. That is gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Jimmy Speed Shop t-shirts on jeepandjimmy.com. Also got square body stuff, CJ stuff, whatever you want. Take it easy. I'll see you in the next one.